We are back with In Conversation With, and this time we have one of the most frightening men I have ever known, Whitley Strieber. Whitley, welcome to In Conversation With on Halloween.
Well, I'm so glad you find me frightening. I wish some other people did too.
Actually, I
Uh,
don't. I know lots of people do, so that's why I said that.
yeah, that's true. They find my books frightening,
I
and
remember you on David Letterman that night, and he said, "So Whitley, how do your friends feel about this?" And you said, "My friends? My God, they see Ann and I coming, they run away." I'll never forget that as long as I live.
I don't even remember being on David Letterman.
You were, well, maybe it was one of the other ones, but I'm pretty sure it was. You were on
Oh,
so
who
many.
knows? I don't keep track.
Yeah, and we were on some
I'm
shows
glad
together.
of the attention, but if you get, I'm on a lot of things, and I have been for many, many years. And if you try to keep them all in your head, you're going to go crazy, especially because I remember like bits and pieces. Like there was uh, some gentleman with an extended ass. Uh, so we won't say the bad word, so the trolls won't get after you.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
who said, "So, Mr. Strieber, are you interested in the planets?" And I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Good. Let's talk about your anus." Is that funny, right? So I went through a lot of that for
Yeah.
years and years, and I still do to an extent.
Oh, sure.
But now that we have big podcasts and podcasts that reach a lot of people, and people care about those podcasts, I don't have to go on the old-fashioned media and be humiliated anymore. I don't need them. I don't have to send my books to the New York Times in order to get a bad review or no review at all. I don't have to go on any of those shows. And that's wonderful.
It is wonderful. And it's so nice to turn them down too.
Well,
Well, that's a
there are
vindictive
certain
part of
ones that
my
I have turned. I'm
personality.
not going to get into which I've turned down and which I
Yeah.
haven't.
No, I'm
There's
not
some I
either.
have turned down. It's true, and but some I wouldn't turn down if they offered, but they haven't. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we did a few of those together back in the day, and I remember
we did.
one of the ones we did was with Bob, the Bob Kiviat thing, and was it Rocket Films?
Oh, that
About
was so fascinating. That still remains, in my opinion. I don't know what you think of it, if you think it's a fake or not.
well, have you heard the latest information
No,
about it? Well, Mary and I keep up as best we can, but one of the things that I need to look at was a film about that where some experts believe absolutely it's real. And they had very good reasons for it, but then we had to stop watching it because something else was happening. But it's been said that it is in fact real. I don't know that for sure. And we were both there together, and they ran the film for us. It was you and me. Was it Roger Lear too there that
I don't
day?
remember.
If
I
someone
remember
else
only,
was there.
I only remember you and I. So someone else
Yeah.
was probably there, but you were the one who stuck in my mind.
But we got fixated on that little green light jumping up and down next to
That's
it.
important.
It is
That's
important. And
the
if you're,
the re Yeah, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Okay, well, the reason it's important to me is something like that was happening on my desk when I wrote communion. A little light was popping up and down right in the corner, right on the edge of the desk. And and if I looked straight at it, you couldn't see it anymore. And then I would start working again and it would be there. And one time I got my finger on it, and it was a disc. I could feel it under my finger very clearly, a little disc on the pressed against the desktop. It slowly oozed out from under my finger, and I could feel it oozing out from under my finger, and I was watching it, and you couldn't see anything come out. And then I start typing again, and there's the light. And I thought, well, hell, I'm going to have this. This is going to be part of my experience. And then I see that same light clearly in the video, and I thought, oh, it's got to be real.
I guess. I mean, I've looked at that video so many times, as I'm sure you have, and I don't recall seeing an oscilloscope shape that, like, if it was coming from an oscilloscope, it looked independent of everything in the room,
There's
and it
no
was just,
oscilloscope there.
yeah, and it was just floating.
Yeah.
And so in looking at the gray itself, could that be a puppet? Could there be people puppeting it? Yes, absolutely, there could. But that would have cost some money to do, to hire someone like myself who did that kind of work back then, and create the foam latex puppet and the fiberglass underskull. That clearly you could see the face was moving, and when
Yeah.
it was under distress. And I don't know. It's a gut thing. You know what I mean. You've
Well,
had
the
to,
little ones, which that is one of the smaller
that's one of
ones,
the small ones. Yep.
are they're very um, insubstantial looking. They are biological, but they're also robotic. Uh, they
Yes.
um, they in the Fourth Mind, in my last book, I analyzed them very carefully because there was a biologist who put up on Reddit a document describing his memories of dissecting them at Fort Detrick in Maryland. Now, that interested me a lot for two reasons. First, I've heard for years that there were some bodies at Fort Detrick from various people in the whisper community, I guess I would call it. And, Whitley, you can't ever say where you heard this, but there are bodies at Fort Detrick. That kind of BS. I have to tell you, I'm bored to tears by all of the cloak and dagger stuff. It's stupid, and I'm not interested in it. I'm not a spy story fan. So, although I do like the Mick Herron stories about Slough House. They're a lot of fun, and I
Oh,
like
James Bond was fun too back in
and
the
I
day.
liked yeah, I liked Jean Le Carré, and yeah, I didn't like the James Bond books because they were too easy. I like a little bit denser book. So anyway, um, that's neither here nor there.
Back to
The
the gray.
what?
Back to
Yeah,
the gray.
well, yeah. Now they're very insubstantial looking. They don't look actually real when you first see them. You can't believe how small they are, and they just seem like what they are, biological machines. And that the Reddit document started with a statement about the way that they evacuate waste from their bodies. Now, I saw them doing this
Yes, you
years
did.
ago, and I told Bud Hopkins about it, and he was disgusted, and he said, "Oh, that's impossible. Don't ever say anything like that to anybody. It'll make you look like a fool." That was when we were still friends, sort of. And so I thought, okay, I saw it, but maybe it was just my imagination. Then I read in the Reddit document that they evacuate waste through pores in their skin. And I
Hmm.
literally saw them doing this. And I thought to myself, this document's probably real because no one else knows that. No one else has ever said anything about it. And I didn't ever write anything about it at all. I actually checked through everything I've ever written, including all of Whitley's journal and everything. It's not there. And so I figured the document might be authentic. And as I went through the document, I found myself able to compare it to things I have lived with and seen. And I built up a picture of their anatomy, their brain structure, their functionality, the way their eyes work, and all kinds of things like that. And what it's a picture of, these are the small ones that are at Fort Detrick that we're talking about, not the five
Yes, of
tall
course.
ones,
Yeah.
and is a picture of a biological robot which carries an enormous and complex brain. And if you think about that, who would build that? This is a brain more complex than our own. It's got 20% more brain area and many more of the wrinkles in it that indicate expand the size of a brain. And it's got four. It's quadrispheric rather than hemispheric. So this is probably a really good brain, and it's inside a robot. And I've seen them. In fact, a friend of mine was just experienced this a few weeks ago. Was working with me, and this individual was abducted, and they came in with three of these little beings rushing around, snorting and very nervous, and one of the taller ones behind them, because they're like guardians. They come with an array of these beings, the tall ones, to protect them from us. Understandably, I mean, they need to be protected from us. They're not wrong to do that.
No, we're a
And
very dangerous animal.
well, yeah, I mean, physically, I don't think they're too worried about controlling us, but
No.
they are worried about us lashing out. They don't want to be near you if you're not under some kind of control.
Yeah.
So um, anyway, that's what those are, and that's what that is at in the Area 51. Is that what it's called? Video, the rocket video.
Yeah, that was allegedly a piece of VHS tape snuck out on the gentleman's wrist who worked there. He took a small clip, put it around his wrist, and left, and then turned it over. And Rocket Video picked it up, and I think Bob
Well,
Kiviat.
I sure hope he survived because they kill people very readily.
They
And
do.
I've known more than one person who copped it because of their involvement in this on the inside. And it's an ugly, ugly business. They are real obsessive about this.
I, am looking at my camera, which looks a lot like the owl of the eye of Hal, and I was perfectly still, and I saw something go behind me when
Huh.
there's a green screen here. I don't know how it could
Oh, I see.
possibly
Well,
do.
in other words, there's no owl or gray or anything behind you. You're just sitting in a room.
Oh no. No, 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 no. In fact, I need to build a new set. And this set was built using CGI, not AI, which is something I'm fighting with people on my channel about who are getting angry at me for lying when I put at the beginning of my shows, I do not use AI, I use CGI. They don't know the difference. And even in the disclaimer, it says the difference between CGI and AI, and they don't read it, and then they throw rocks at me. So, this is all created. These are all everything I do with my computer graphics is basically made with this mouse and my hand and computer software. There's no artificial intelligence involved, not unless I'm one
So, which
myself.
AI program do you use? That's the kind of
I,
thing you
I
get.
get asked that all the time.
You get, uh, this is CGI. I did this myself. It is in no way connected to AI. So, which AI program do you use?
Yeah, well, they also
Yeah,
call
I
me
just,
they call me an idiot because this one guy said you're an idiot because CGI, AI, it's all the same, and it's not. They're two
no, it
different
sure
things.
isn't.
So anyway, going
Go
back
out there
to
and try to do some CGI like Steve does, and you'll find
yeah,
it's not
yes,
AI at all.
spend a few years being trained, and then we'll see what you do.
Well,
Go,
listen, let's talk about more interesting stuff and stop
yeah,
complaining
yeah.
about
No, I
the
know,
three
I
or
know.
four trolls that
It-
have
it-
each has 16 accounts and they bother you and me.
yeah, and it's funny, because you'll see they say exactly the same. They use the same phrasing every time, like
Well,
it's coming
and
from the same
especially,
person.
they're gonna hear this, Steve. They're gonna read, "I've got his goat," and they're gonna go to town on you for this. So,
But they
this,
change accounts and it's the same person. That's what
yeah,
I'm
well,
trying
they're
to say.
teasing you. It's bullies and teenagers who are teasing you. And when I was a teenager, I might have done the same thing.
You
You might
probably
have
would
too.
have. You probably would
I
have.
was out of control when I was a teenager.
But you're a little more in control now. Going back
Somewhat,
to the gray,
somewhat.
you say that they're biological robots,
Well,
essentially.
the short ones are, and I think that they're linked
Yes, I do
telemetrically to
too.
the taller ones. I think when you see the short ones, the tall ones are always somewhere nearby.
But what I want
And
to ask you is in your travels, Have you ever seen what has been referred to in the past, especially during the late 80s and 90s, as the baby gallery, which is that large room that's full of tanks, or sometimes it's tubes with little fetuses in them, and people have said those are hybrids. It's I've experienced that, and I believe those are the small ones being grown. The
I have
bodies
no
are
idea about that. I've never seen it.
from what
I hope.
I get from the people I've interviewed and my own experience is that uh, the visitors, the small ones, even the large ones, are able to, their bodies, if they die on them, they can literally go into a new body with full retention of their of who they are and all their memories and their personality if they have one.
I have
And
no idea about any of that.
yeah,
I can only tell you talk about what I have experienced. And
yeah,
I have seen the small ones and the 5 foot tall ones, and I've seen these stocky dark blue figures, and I've seen and interacted two, with three tall whites and one Nordic. And
right.
that's my experience.
Yeah, I remember people, but not as much as I remember the tall gray with the very light skin that seems to.
Oh yeah, we had one in our life, all right,
Yeah, but I mean
big time.
they're joined at the hip to us, and they've been there since the beginning, and they're still there right now.
Well,
Uh,
she was this one who I
it's a
perceived as
she. Yeah,
female. I mean, I don't know whether they're males or females, but the men always seem to think they're women, and women always seem to think they're men.
yeah,
So that tells you something about what they may be or may not be,
yeah.
which is we have no idea. In any case, the one I was with a lot, I basically fell in love with my family, in my opinion, and started coming around a great deal. She came around nightly and hung out in the woods during the day, and she was always close. And we had a relationship that lasted about 2 years, and sporadically comes back from time to time. But now, these days, my relationship is mostly with beings who penetrate it just enough into the physical to touch me or blow on my cheek to wake me up or give me a little dry kiss every once in a while. And I work with them mentally, not channeling anything. I'm too stupid to channel. Uh, so so I have a back and forth at 3 o'clock in the morning about the work, about the books and the videos and all of that sort of thing. And that's how it is now. And if someone gets into deep work relationship with me on something the visitors find important, they're highly likely to meet them too. And they know that going in. And the last time it happened, it's worked quite well. So um, it's a working relationship now. And it's going to turn out that they're horrifying vampires or something. And
Well, it is Halloween, isn't it?
yeah. And I've been sleeping here in the night every night with the Lord of the Flies in the bed beside me or something.
Well, it is a working relationship, and I'm finding that with the people that have been on Breaking the Silence and spilling their guts to the world about their relationship and their experience with the visitors, uh, it has gone from being a terrifying, um, traumatic experience to a point now 30, 40 years later in their lives where they are grateful for the experience because of who they've become, that they would not be the person they are today, awake, aware of things
Yeah.
they never would have dreamed of being aware of. And they've become more intelligent too. I mean, it's interesting to note that. I mean, with Debbie Cobble, she had an above average IQ, and then after this experience years later, it was like she took a Mensa test and got in, and her IQ went up a lot. And she's not sure if that's because of the experience or if she can even believe that those numbers are correct. But she definitely has a sense, as I do, as you do, as many other people do, that something has raised the vibration of our consciousness to a higher level where we're able to interact with a consciousness that's much, much higher vibration level than we are, but we're at least able to work with them. And the work that we're doing is to slowly bring the rest of these evolved apes up to speed.
Well, all I can think of is this. I think of myself as the guy in the room who's coming up from behind. So I never think about IQs or anything like that.
No, I don't either, but it's just interesting
I
in my experience over the last 2 years with Breaking the Silence as sort of an investigator or keeping track of things. I've noticed these things, and they come up over and over again.
I think I seem to remember being given an IQ test when I was a little boy, and I ended up in this thing at it's one of the air bases in San Antonio that was very traumatic for me. I don't know what went on, but whatever they were trying to do, it didn't work, and they damn near killed me. So
Yeah,
I
I had something like that too. You do know about that, right?
yeah I
So-
no I
Well,
don't.
that's when I read Solving the Communion Enigma. I came out of my chair because you hadn't talked to me about it before.
No, I
I knew
just
about the secret school, and I know about that too, but that book really got me because it kicked off what hearing somebody else's account will do. You talked about
yeah
memories, and you talked about those traumatic memories going into a trash can, being suppressed by the mind to protect itself. And then you're reading a book by a scary man. He starts talking about things, and you start, wait a minute, who are those people that came to my house in the night? And why did they take me to my school? And why was the school dark? And why were all those other kids there? And I get chills now just starting to remember it again. It's like I'm not supposed to remember this. It starts to make me feel uncomfortable, but it's very similar to what you experienced being taken to the base at that age. And I wonder how many other people reacted the same way. Did you get a response from that book that indicated to you that people with a close encounters experience had similar memories of a similar event?
no, I wouldn't say I got much of a response, but
That's
that could be
interesting.
because the book was, I was being so, uh, with no internet and the general media beating up on me so much, those books weren't selling well at all. So a lot of people don't even know about the secret school. And I have got questions about it too, because in my memory of it, I leave my house in Terrell Hills, Texas, in the night, go 2 miles to an area called the Almas Basin, go through the basin, which is a very dark, swampy, dangerous area, and come up to this path, this very straight path up a bluff and angled like this under a huge old tree. I go around behind the tree, and there are other kids, and we sit on benches, and a hooded figure comes and teaches us. Okay, that's what I remember. Now, on the ground, I've walked this, ridden this area in a bicycle and everything. I've done what I thought I did. It's not possible that a kid did it. No, it can't happen. Cannot happen the way I just described it.
Hmm.
So, what did happen, and I say that because the tree is there, the angled straight path was there, but there's so many people have gone there now since the book was written that it's gone. The ruined benches were there behind the tree just as I remembered them. So what happened? What really happened? Something did, but it can't be what I remember. Now, here's a possibility. Just beyond the benches, there was an old sister's home. And I am thinking that maybe Because remember, I had had this IQ test when I was real little, speaking of IQ tests. And that's why I ended up being screwed with at the air base, if it was indeed on the base, and I'm not even sure of that, but I remember it as being on Randolph Air Force Base,
Hmm.
which is probably true because this Nazi war criminal, Herbertus Strughold, was there uh, doing uh, doing high altitude, working the high altitude medicine lab or something, and he had been at Osh or in Dachau. He's the one, see those horrifying pictures of Jews trapped in 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 these uh, these chambers where they slowly reduce the amount of oxygen. He was that guy, and then he's working for the U.S. Air Force. He's getting all kinds of awards. The Daughters of the Alamo, or the Daughters of the Republic of Texas, are honoring him and everything. What a sick world. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's
it
here
still
and
goes
there.
on today.
Here's my thought. The old sisters' home, maybe there was a nun there who had taught science, and they got together a group of very intelligent children, and I would be in that group because of my IQ test, so that she could teach them advanced science, and it was done uh, on those benches behind the old sisters' home. That's all I can think of as really happening. And she would, of course, been in a habit in those days. And the Sisters of the Incarnate Word had a very big wimple. It was their habit was very dark. So something happened, and I think it's explainable. And I don't think it happened in the dead of the night like that.
Huh. Did-
I don't see how it could
How
have.
did you get there?
I think probably my mother drove me there.
But for some reason, you have this almost a screen memory of something quite different, being at night and
I don't know. I can't figure it out. I don't know why it would have come out like that as the memory would have, but I'm telling you what I think could have happened. Because as
yeah,
I
I
say, I've
understand.
gone the route, and it's no way a 9 or 10 year old boy could do that unless this is all, there's no reasonable rational way to explain it in ordinary terms, and it involved some kind of transport, like being flown through the air or something. In the night, I don't know. But the thing that's odd is that no matter how hard I try, I can't remember it happening during the day. And I remember the other kids being kind of huddled up and not, no one really wanting to, there was no engagement among the children.
Like they're all under a state of hypnosis or something.
Well, yeah, because the thing that's odd is that kids in a group like that, they're going to talk and,
Yeah.
make friends and have, you know, have pecan fights and stuff, there were a lot of pecan trees around there. All of that. And uh,
Well,
uh,
you do know that the Greys, the tall ones, have been reported in cases as wearing robes with a hoodie.
oh, I know they've seen that. People saw that around our cabin. So maybe,
And
I'm trying to explain it away
I know,
because the actual what's on the ground makes it seem impossible to that the memory could be real. That's my bottom line. And maybe the memory is real, and I don't know. Anyway, the weird part of it is that no matter how you cut the cookie, the benches were there, the tree was there, the path was there. So that part of it happened. And now, getting back to this, my mother didn't take me because I walked up that path. I remember very well doing that. Therefore, that part of it is wrong. So, and as we're talking, the memory is very fluid. It's falling apart and coming together in different ways. And that I think is something that we all have to face about this. Our memories are very volatile. They are not fixed. Memory is not marble. Memory is a liquid. And we have to all get our heads around that. because as we go farther into this situation, we have to be very careful to try to get to the point where there's some kind of a baseline, and there is no baseline now. There'll probably never be a baseline with the secret school, but there could be a baseline with the abduction experience. And for a very interesting reason, it is that the brain, uh, if you ask a person for a memory of something they believe happened but didn't, that memory is going to be assembled in the brain differently from a memory of something that actually did physically happen. Because the memory of something that physically happened came from the senses. And the
Hmm.
other memory comes from a completely different part of the brain. But the individual probably won't be able to tell the difference. This would be why someone is asked questions under a lie detector and they pass, even though the answers are, even though it's still a sort of fantasy. But a functional MRI scanner can detect the difference. There have been papers about this. Is can detect the difference between these way these memories are assembled. And if we took even like 50 people who've had this experience, we could get that baseline, no question about that,
Hmm.
of what actually physically happened to them, what their memories are telling us of physical experience, and what part of it has been unintentionally conflated. And that would be a start, but we don't have that. And believe me, if you try to get that in this environment that we're in, first, there will be all kinds of obstacles from within the neurological community. And second, if you did get neurologists who were willing to do it and you had the money, which would be a
Yeah.
significant amount of money, probably at least $1 million and maybe more to do
Hmm.
even that many people, probably more than $1 million, then you would have the government coming in and trying to screw it up.
Yes, you would.
So it's it's far from doable now. But until we do that, we are literally floating on a dark ocean of memory and we don't really know what's in there.
One of the things about memory that I have learned is that I have a very good memory. I mean, it's photographic. I can go right back to any time. Like for instance, I remember we had just been up in Santa Barbara, yourself and Ann and me, to see Michael Linderman. We went to the wharf and we had a really nice lunch and we talked. And then on the way back, it was getting dark. I was in the front seat. Ann was in the back seat. She had was giggling at with what we were talking about, and she fell asleep. And we were driving along the road, and a big bug hit the windshield. And I said, "Wow, that was a big bug." And you looked at me, and you looked back because your eyes were on the road, and you said, "Big bug." Sounds like a band. My memory is that sharp. Now I know, and by comparing my memory to other people that I know and have known, their memory is what you're talking about. It's really not that clear, not that good. They don't remember exact details. And in fact, in my motion picture career, I've had people I worked with argue with me um, about uh, about things that I made for Star Trek, and they said, "No, I made that." Their memory was unclear. They thought they had done it, and it's like, "No, it's got my name on it. I got pictures of myself sculpting it," and it's like, "Oh." I always thought that I did that. So that really tells me what you're telling me is very accurate, very, very real. And it shows you how unstable memory is. But there are some of us that have this memory and it's like a recording. Um, and I know Susie Hansen talked about this in her book where she said it was very important to the visitors that we develop better memories, that we have very acute memories. It was something they were working with us on achieving that ability. Um, and that's what I know about this whole memory thing. I mean, I can go right back to my first experience, and I can tell the story the same way every time, no matter what. When I woke up that night in San Francisco, and I was 6 years old, you know the story. You were in the film
Yeah.
that we made about it, and uh, I get asked to tell that story over and over again, and every time I'm asked, I'm there. I see it, I feel it, I smell it, I hear the silence, all of it. Um, and I,
Problem is this.
after I talk to so many people, I wonder how's that possible? How is it that I have a memory like that?
The problem is this. We can describe what we remember, but we cannot know whether or not that's what happened. There's no way. There's simply no way.
Well,
And
I know that what happened with you with the big bug hitting the windshield and you saying that line happened, but you don't remember it, so maybe it wasn't real.
no, I didn't say I didn't remember it.
Okay.
I didn't
He,
say that at all.
he said big bug. It sounds like a band. That's totally like something you would say. So,
In any case, um, I think that the way things are now, if we rely on memory, we're going down a primrose path because of the absence of a baseline. And this is not true. This is true not only of this experience, but of a lot more in the world.
oh yeah.
Uh, and for example, there are undoubtedly thousands of people in prison who have been put there by incorrect witness memories.
Yes.
And there's a scholarly program, I believe, maybe more than one, that studies this in the hopes of freeing people who have been falsely accused and incarcerated. And you know, it's so
We
I
have the
think
Mandela effect too.
right. And then we have things like working against us for a long time was this sinister organization called the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which arose out of the that incident where all the children began to accuse the teachers in a pre-K of being Satanists. And some of these people, a lot of people, it became a national meme, and it was before the internet was really established, and police took these children's uh, accusations at their word, and a lot of people went to jail unfairly. And the False Memory Syndrome Foundation was founded by two people whose adult daughter, had accused them of abusing her as a child. And they were both psychologists, and she was Jennifer Fried was also a psychologist. And so, but then it turned out that the first science advisor for the False Memory Syndrome Foundation was a man uh, uh, named Karl Unterweger from Holland, from a Dutchman who had published articles in a Dutch magazine called Pedica saying that love affairs between men and boys were good for the boys. And eventually, the False Memory Syndrome Foundation was disbanded because its thesis, its the ideas that it espoused were not true. They espoused the idea that there's no such thing as a buried memory, but that's false. It's not true. There are buried memories. And also, there is a filtration system that if you engage with those memories, and there are things about them that you don't want to recall, things that are too frightening or too strange or too emasculating, perhaps, you will alter the memory even under hypnosis and will describe something other than what happened in order to protect yourself from not from witness, but from the way the memory makes you feel. And believe me, I know this deeply as I'm a person who has had the experience of having a baby taken from my wife, and who has had the experience of being shown a baby, and who has had the experience of meeting that baby again when he was 11 years old. So I know this territory really well. And
You do.
all of this, we have to find a way to baseline all of this, or we're never going to know what's really happening here. Never.
And the visitors know it very well too, because lately I've had experiences and I know they've happened. I know from how I feel physically in the morning. I know from flash memories that or flashes that I have. I don't know if they're memories, but what happened. But when I try to pry into it, I get stopped and I'm told I'm not supposed to remember this right now and don't try to remember it. And
Yeah,
so,
but what the hell are they? Where are they
but I
coming from?
tried, but when I try, I start feeling sick to my stomach and it stops me from doing it.
But here's the thing. Where do they get off? I mean, what's it? They don't have any business deciding what you can and can't remember.
I don't know.
It's very frustrating.
It is
I agree
frustrating,
with
but
you.
it seems like they're doing that because they want you to remember when it's necessary for you to remember and not until then,
That's
whatever that means.
it's your life. It's not their
No, I know.
decision.
I
It's
know
not
it
their
is.
decision.
No.
I mean, we're not cattle. Little monkeys to be
What
trained.
movie was that from? We're not cattle, you know. Sorry to laugh, but that just brought that back. No,
Uh,
we're not. We're not. Well, Whitley, we've talked for a while now, and really before we close, you were before, and I say to my audience, we were recording this conversation on StreamYard. And I've had a lot of problems with StreamYard lately, and so has Whitley, and he's no longer using it. And what happened is like 10 minutes into the conversation, and he was talking about his new book, which I think is really important, and I didn't get to hear much of it at all. I started getting static.
and it was scary as hell. But I did it. Go ahead.
Only from Whitley, and it was so bad. It got worse and worse and worse and worse. I could barely understand what he said. So we ended it. And now Whitley has kindly sent me a link to his Zoom account, and we're recording on his Zoom account. Before we say goodbye for now, did you want to talk about your book because it is your latest work that you've been?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
will talk about it.
Okay.
It's called Transformation 2025. And
Wow.
some of you will remember a book called Transformation that was published in 1998. And,
Absolutely.
Communion hit the media unexpectedly. They weren't expecting it. There was no warning. In fact, there was not even a warning to the bookstores. The books were just showed up in their storage spaces one day, sent without any prep of any kind from the publisher. And they ended up putting them on the shelves because there they were. The publisher was smart. They knew that if they said something about the contents of this book, no one would pick it up. Uh, Now, the next book, Transformation, everyone was ready. Ontological shock had kicked in, and the media, the bookstores, everyone was ready to kill this book. And they did it. And, however, this book, the first book is about the abduction and the experience of trying to make sense of it that occurred afterwards. Then I start going out into the woods in the night because I'm saying, and Annie and I were agreeing, we have to, uh, I have to do this. I have to engage. Now that I know these are real people, these beings, I have to engage with them. I can't just not do this, and scary as it is. And they responded. And the second book, Transformation, is the first of two books. The next one is called Breakthrough, where it's a description of what it's like for a little family to have an experience of relationship, real relationship with the Greys. Real. It's the only thing that's ever been written about this like that, still
Hmm.
this day. Now, I've done Transformation 2025 And each chapter, I update it to 2025. What do we know now about the experience, about the way the brain handles memories, about what happened, about what the media did? All of that stuff is there. And it's in effect a new book. And I'm hoping people will pick it up and read it this time because nobody did the last time.
It's an evolved book. It's evolved because your experience, many of our experiences have evolved tremendously over the years.
Oh my God, yes, and that's what the update is about.
Yeah,
It is because we know so much more now about the brain, about how memories are formed, about how experience works. We know from each other about how what the experience does to us and does to our families. And for example, my son had a lot of experience and remembers nothing now. Now, I know why that is. I know the neurology of it
mhm.
now. I didn't then. But now that I've worked with extensively with neurologists and with, I mean, I probably know as much about neurology as a lot of neurologists at this point. And I know why his memories disappeared. And I know why memories of that kind do disappear and how they can be recovered reliably using, by the way, hypnosis, if it's properly applied, it can be an effective tool. And all of the guff about hypnosis doesn't work is just that. It's guff. And it's
Yes, it
just
is.
like all of the stories after Communion was published. I had 3 or 4 lie detector tests and passed them all. Story after story would appear in the papers. Lie detectors don't work. But the CIA never stopped using them to test its
Yeah,
operatives
yeah.
during that whole period because actually they do work in the hands of a good operator who knows what they're doing. They work
And what
great.
about all the other tests you had? I mean, I'm thinking about this because I just got through dealing with Debbie Cobble. I read her book, which is also an updated book to her old book, and she talks about she went Bud put her through every test known to man.
Yeah,
Brain scans. First thing he did
Bud
was bring her to a
Bud was
psychologist.
Bud was very good at that. He
It's
was very
thorough.
serious.
Yeah.
And you know what Bud did for me? The most best thing Bud did for me of many good things. And I know Bud got mad at me, but everybody gets mad at me eventually, so it doesn't bother me.
Oh, I never have.
Oh no, never, never, not at all. No, I don't remember a single occasion when
No,
we
I don't
fought.
either. I guess my memory is working well.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Okay,
anyway,
anyway,
Bud did for
that
you.
aside, he got me in touch with the best man in the world as far as hypnosis is concerned. Dr. Donald Klein was the world's leading forensic hypnotist. He was the head of the New York State Department of Psychiatry. You do not get more prestige in the psychiatric community than he had. And at that time, he told me 72 cases that he had solved using forensic hypnosis. Therefore, he was demonstrably the real deal. Bud got him.
Yeah.
Bud got him.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to your new book, as always. When you finished the last one, you said you didn't know if there'd be another one, but there
They
is. And I'm
always say
really
that.
glad because it's nice to wake up in the morning and live in a world with Whitley Strieber and his wonderful writing. And, I, and,
Thank you.
and it, well, it's true. I mean, it's like, too many people are going away, and my world's like, well, you know what I'm talking about. And at the beginning of the show, before StreamYard went to hell in a handbasket, um, I was thanking you on behalf of everyone in the community who has close encounters experiences for communion. Not everybody read communion, but a great deal did. And that started an awareness of this that has evolved and continued to this day and brought people together in amazing ways. And we have you to thank for it.
No, thank you. And yeah, if you haven't read Communion, you should read Communion.
I
Communion
tell that
is,
to
or
everyone.
listen to it. I've read all of these books now. Communion, uh, them, the Afterlife Revolution, which Steve did a
Right.
beautiful cover for, and uh, Fourth Mind, New World. They're all on Audible, so you can listen to them if you don't read anymore, which a lot of people do not.
Yeah, that's really apparent, especially when you have a channel and you put things up that are really important to be read before opinions are cast out
Yeah,
at you. But there
yeah,
it
that's
is.
right. A lot of people will offer their opinions without having any information at all.
Yeah,
Fascinates me.
talk about putting your foot in your mouth. Before we go, because this is Halloween, I have a memory I can't confirm, and I know someone else who had a very similar memory. And I remember 47th Avenue. I'm in the hallway. There's a knock at the door. It's Halloween, and I'm thinking, okay, these are kids come to get candy, and I have my costume on. I'm getting ready to go out, and I open the door, and there's these two kids standing there in the most realistic looking Casper the Ghost costumes I've ever seen. And when I look at it in my mind now, and who knows, right? We just talked about memory. They're all white. They have big heads. They look like Casper, but there's no fabric or anything. It's just they have that appearance and they say trick or treat. And that's where it ends. I don't know what happens after that.
Well, what happened after that is very clear. It was
That's what I was
trick.
looking for.
It was trick. Well, oddly enough, I'm sure you've read in my books the story of Casper the Unfriendly Ghost. This happened in 1983, before any of the communion experience took place.
Right.
Um, our My poor little boy was about 5. He went through a lot. He's a wonderful man, thank God. But uh, he was there was something that was waking him up in the night by poking him. And he would say, "It's poking me and poking me." And we were confused. He says, "It's a white thing." Called it the white thing. And then one night, Anne says something and she begins to stir in the bed. And I look over and there's Casper the Unfriendly Ghost is standing beside the bed. That's exactly what you just described. And then it disappears. Then it's a couple nights later, it wakes me up, and then I see it kind of fluing against the ceiling like it's just a weird look. I don't know, like it was going really fast and so fast it was blurred, but it wasn't moving. It was really strange.
Wow.
Then we we go to a wedding, or a wedding reception. Ann and I do, and there's a sitter, and this is during the day, and it's a rehearsal. I don't remember what it was. In any case, we're there, and cell phones are brand new, but I've got one, and the cell phone rings, and it's the babysitter, and she's in hysterics, and we jump up and run home. The wedding couple were so furious they never talked to us again. But you know, what can you do when there's distress and
Well,
we
that's happened
got home
before.
as fast as we could
Yeah.
and went running upstairs. And the babysitter was there with her mother. And the baby, poor girl, was in hysterics. She had seen what looked to her like Casper the Friendly Ghost, Unfriendly Ghost, I should say, standing on the fire escape, peering in the window into the kitchen. And then it had showed up in the bedroom, in the back bedroom, and she was just absolutely terrified. And they left. Andrew was quietly playing in his bedroom at that point. And we asked him what had happened, and he said, "Oh, the white thing scared her." So I agree. The white thing's around. That
I'll be
wasn't
damned. Well, I
Halloween.
didn't know I was going to get that, and
No, but here's
but
the
I didn't know I was
fascinating
going to
thing
get
that
chicken cat either.
here's the fascinating thing that we actually have similar memories of the same thing. What the hell is it?
them. I
Them,
mean,
yeah,
they were clearly around very close to me when I was a child, so much so that when I got older and I looked back on what I thought was my childhood imagination, I realized that it may not have been my imagination, that I
yeah.
really was playing with these beings and having a good time. And they'd even take me away in the night off to this magical place in the sky. But I have those memories. And then you do this work and you work with other people and you mention that and you get this stare from them and they say, "Oh my God, and how many times have you heard it, Whitley?" I mean, in all this time. It's really something. And even chicken cats.
Okay, well, you brought up chicken cat twice now, so now
Well,
even though I need to go, I've
I
got to
need to
talk.
go too.
All right, I'm going to have to tell the chicken cat story, or your audience will be pissed
Well,
off.
you told it once before in another show because I had brought it up and
Oh, good. So we don't have to
you
tell
were
it again.
astounded that I knew anything about that because I had had an experience. It was recent. It was a few months ago where I saw this chicken walking around with a cat's head on it, looking through the window at me. It was a dream. And I woke up
Oh,
and I called
good.
it,
I'm so
and I
glad. What a
called it the
relief.
chicken, but it wasn't Earth. I don't know where I was, but I said that it was a chicken cat, and I wrote to you about it in an email, and you responded to it, and then we talked about it in the show.
Yeah, well, because just to sum up, so people who
Sure.
didn't hear that show can know, that was the name of when I was a little tiny boy. My sister had bandy chickens in a coop in the backyard, and Chicken Cat took care of the chickens and kept the possums away. And that's why Chicken Cat was called Chicken Cat.
Yeah. Wow. Well, what a
All right.
conversation, Whitley. Thank you. We seem to always have interesting ones. We've been doing this
Well,
since
this was an interesting one. All right. I hope that
1993.
by some miracle it actually worked. We'll see.
Yeah. Whitley, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I look forward to talking to you again soon.